Welcome to another edition of Voice of the Diaspora. In studio with me this evening is former Treasurer of the People's National Congress, Mr. Faaiz Mursaline. Mr. Mursaline will be talking about his resignation from the PNCR in December and about why he made such a decision. He will also talk about problems he encountered in the party and what recommendations he made to the party that apparently fell on deaf ears. Today, we will be having a candid conversation with Mr. Faaiz Mursaline, former Treasurer of the People's National Congress. Faaiz Mursaline, welcome to Voice of the Diaspora.
Thank you for having me on your program, Mr. Norman Brown.
And it's great to have you here. Of course, this is a conversation and an interview of national importance. The PNCR, of course, is a national party, and it's a party that has formed several governments throughout the history, our history in Guyana. Today, the People's National Congress has a new leadership, and you were a part of that leadership as treasurer of the PNCR and central executive member, I understand. Mr. Mursaline, I want to go straight into the program. When did you resign and what caused you to resign?
My resignation came on the effect of issues that couldn't be addressed properly within the party. And I took it into my own perspective that it's been 1 year since I've been the treasurer of the party. And those issues that I have addressed to the leader isn't properly addressed. And then when the General Secretary, Gita Chandan Edmond, resigned, I think to myself that the party couldn't keep, I'm saying this, I'm saying it as it is. The party couldn't keep an Indian person as General Secretary. And it comes with the effect that Mr. Norton couldn't keep Miss Gita Chandan Edmond as General Secretary. And that's what is going to make his downfall into the party. Because the thing is, when it comes to racial prosperity in any political party, you must have that on the utmost priority. And when you have individuals within the party, when I say that one fruit make the whole basket go bad, they have individuals in his leadership that is causing racial hostility. And when you approach the leader into this, he's like leaving it in the deaf ears, And it makes me to question. It gives me a big question mark. It left me pause in a way that I must question myself that Mr. Norton, did he practice what he preaches? It made me left at a big question. And that question I have already numerously answered myself by the aloofness of his leadership and the militantness of his leadership. And I think we need to take that into perspective.
Go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead.
Pardon me, I didn't hear you.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yes, I think that we should take that into perspective, into choosing a leader that will hold the government accountable, yes, but will also work hand in hand with the government in ensuring its supporters is well off. When I mean well off, is well taken care of and etc. And not everything the government is saying that you must rush down the throat of the government.
But before we
You
go
know,
to
I
the
think,
other, before we go to the other issues in terms of
yeah.
how he deals with the government, you have leveled an allegation. Um, you've made accusations that you have encountered racism in the PNCR.
Hmm.
For the sake
Not,
of our 1 second, for the sake of our viewers, you said one apple spoiled the whole basket. Are you talking about one person being racist towards yourself and other Indo-Guyanese in the party, or are you talking about experiencing racism in the party? And if you would have experienced racism in the party, could you elaborate on that? Could you be specific so that our viewers can have an understanding of what you're talking about?
racism in the party comes with individuality. It comes with peer persons. It comes with person character. I think we cannot think we cannot be somebody who's gonna be the minds of someone else. They have the minds of their own selves. But what we can do is to correct those mistakes and to work together in ensuring that racism is being eliminated in the whole Guyana, not in political parties alone. We have individuals in the PNC. I think we have individuals in the PPP as well that are racist, and I think they need to be eliminated. It is not myself alone that has been brought in complaint up to the leader of racism in the political party in the PNCR. It's not myself alone. So when I'm speaking here, I'm speaking on behalf of person who faces similarity of these racism tactics from individuals in the PNCR.
You're being
And I think these
you are being
I,
very vague. So let me ask you this question: you encountered racism in the PNCR. Tell us
of course,
how. Tell
I
us
conquered myself.
who was racist towards you. What were the incidents? Tell the
I
viewers.
suggested
Mhm.
I suggested the name to the CEC, the person who was the person who leveled racism, hostility. I think the most gruesome type of words ever used to a treasurer or somebody who is a part of the leadership. I think, what must I say that will convince the viewers that these words used against me was very hostile. And I have reported it constantly. I don't know if the leader was sober enough to apprehend it. But I have issued many instances to the leader, telling him that these are the issues of the party, and people are seeing it. MPs are addressing it to me, and I need to tell you what's going on.
So you took specific complaints about a particular member in the
Verbally.
party verbally,
Verbally.
being very racist towards you, using racial slurs and so on. Um, at you. Well, can you elaborate? Can you be a bit more specific? What did you feel? How did you feel? What was said to you? It appears to me that you don't want to mention any names because you said
No, I don't want to mention
yeah,
it. Mr. Norman Brown, I won't mention it
you said you
because,
already told the the Central Executive
yeah,
Committee, the name of the person or persons. How
yeah.
explain what was said to you that caused you to believe that you were, that you had encountered.
For example, I want to use this very simple example. Mr. Joseph Hamilton, who was a big PNC man back then, all right? You know Mr. Joseph Hamilton, right? He's a
Yes,
minister
yes.
of the government. He's a big PNC man. And why is it PPP isn't saying that every black man joining the PPP is a Joseph Hamilton? Why is it the PNC people is saying that every single Indian joining the PNC is a Charandas? That's the main example what we are going to.
Also, you were called a Charanas in the party to your face?
The thing is, the modus of operandi of these racist individual is that every Indian that is joining the PNC is a Charandas. I must say it plain blank as it is.
What
I
was?
won't hide it. I
Well,
won't hide. I won't hide it from saying it.
is that an opinion,
And I think
or you were told you were Charandas, or you
I was
were?
told that many instances. I'm speaking as a saddened individual that works tirelessly for the People's National Congress reform. Tirelessly when it comes to government, when it comes to opposition, when it comes to representing the people. And when you are being told that, it's like all the work you are doing, all the kind of work you're doing tirelessly is being shoved under the carpet without recognition.
And
All right?
you raise this issue with the leader on several leader of the party,
I
Mr.
have
Aubrey
raised
Norton.
this
On
issue several times with Mr.
and what
Norton.
happened? Did you get any recourse? Did you feel satisfied that the
Well, in
matter was
layman
being
terms, they
addressed?
say, in layman terms, you know what they say? That when it passes through these ears, it comes through the other ears. All right? And I will say it as it is.
Why do you believe that it went through one ear and gone through the other?
Because that's the way
One
of his
ear and
action.
gone. But
His
why do you?
action.
Yeah,
His
why?
actions speak louder than words.
Is there a reason why
I
you
don't
think he
believe it.
ignored? Is
I
there?
don't believe it, but it's a modus of operandi of himself. It's the way of how he carried himself in the realms of leadership of of the party. All right?
Let us talk. Let us talk about your role as treasurer
Mm-hmm.
and
Correct.
those alleged irregularities that you would have
Yeah.
cited happening in the party. You spoke
Mm-hmm.
about being forced to
Yeah.
sign blank checks
Yeah.
from the time you became treasurer up to 2 months or a month before you resigned, which was in December. So it would have been up to November. So that's almost one. That was 1 year. You would have been there almost a year signing blank checks. Tell us how you felt. Tell us what transpired. You are the treasurer of the party. You understand there's a certain way you operate in terms of when you're dealing with accountability and so on. Tell the viewers what transpired.
Well, Mr. Norman Brown, when I was elected treasurer of the party, I must start from the instance of me being elected as treasurer. I have been proposing many plans and programs for the party into becoming a self-sufficient force. All right? I have mentioned that to many comrades within the diaspora and many comrades locally. Um, those checks that I have signed, I will go straight to the point. Because a lot of viewers want to hear from the horse's mouth. All right. Those checks that I have signed was initially brought to me to sign because I'm living in Port Everton, right? But when I requested for the invoices or these supporting documents to be issued to these checks to ensure that proper accountability and integrity and transparency is being brought to the table, I've been told that whenever the General Secretary resumes operation, mind you, the General Secretary was at administrative leave. So when I saw to myself that the General Secretary isn't coming back to the position of General Secretary, and that that some sort of rumors were spreading in Congress that she will be resigning, I took it to myself that I should resign as well, because when it comes to accountability and integrity in the party, I think I stand to myself, I stand to my word, that I must bear true faith and allegiance when it comes to accountability and integrity in the party. and the general secretary resigning is going to affect the modus of operandi of the party when it comes to auditing and so on. So when I the decision for me to say the issues that I raised to the CEC is everything within the confines of whatever happened.
Was the leader
Whatever
of the
happened in the party
was the
is
leader of
everything that I have
was the
stated.
leader of the party, Mr. Aubrey Norton, aware of these checks being signed? And what was his
Well, it was a saying that E to brute, right? You to Brutus. It's like when the general secretary wasn't acting, wasn't involved in his signing of checks, it's his signature as well on the checks.
also Mr.
And when
Norton?
his
Okay.
signature, yeah,
Mhm.
his signature is on the check, so it's not myself alone signature is on the check. All right. But when as treasurer I'm signing these checks, I have not been issued or I have not seen any sort of invoices or documents that is stating the amount of,
So
specify the amount.
this happened
All
over
right.
time. This happened over time. Did you raise that with the leader specifically that you weren't seeing any
I
evidence
have
of
not
where?
raised that to the leader, but I have raised that to the person who is issuing me to sign those checks. That was the secretary to the general secretary. You know,
And that
the
person
secretary
has
to the general secretary.
and that person has the authority to say to you that you need to sign these checks.
They didn't say that they have the authority to
Does
question
I'm
me or
asking you, does that person
no,
have
they
the
didn't.
authority? They didn't have the authority. So
They didn't have the authority.
so you felt forced. Why couldn't you say to that person, you don't have that
I said
authority?
to them, they told me that when the general secretary returns to her position, that I'll be issued all the requested documents that I will be requesting. All right?
In your opinion,
Yeah.
what went wrong? What do you think happened that you were left in the dark as treasurer, not knowing where the money was being spent, and
It's not, I won't say myself left in the dark as treasurer, but what I must say is that I have produced as treasurer work plans, programs, and policies that will make the party self sufficient in the form that if I could explain it, I have.
we will get to that point because I have to ask you that
Okay.
question. But we're talking
Yes.
about the blank
And
checks.
I have been left in the shadows, I must say. And
And
it's somebody going to think that, oh, as a senior politician, as a treasurer of the People's National Congress reform, how can you be left in the shadows? Well, you can be left in the shadows by person manipulating the system. You can be left in the shadows by person being
but
manipulating the system.
the position of treasurer is a very powerful position, and you have the
Correct.
power.
It is.
You have the power and authority to say, I will not proceed to do anything that appears to be under the table when it comes
I have
to
said that.
my
Yeah.
signature on the check. I will ask you this question. Why, once again, why didn't you approach the leader directly to have a discussion with him in relation to the signing of these blank checks and being kept in the dark in terms of where the money was being spent, how it was being spent, not receiving any evidence of how this money is being spent?
Well, Mr. Brown, I think the auditor for the party would summarize those kinds of claims and objection from party members or even you of how the money is being spent. I think as a politician and as treasurer of the party, I did everything within the confines of the law, ensuring that proper accountability is being brought to the party by signing these checks and having day-to-day operations being met, right? But when I was being told by the secretary to the general secretary that these instances of invoices and so on will be addressed to you when the general secretary resumes our position, I think I took that into perspective. I think I shone it off in a way that um, I would wait until the general secretary resumes her position. And the general secretary never did. The general secretary never did, in any instance, resume her position. She sent her resignation via whatever email or whatever the case may be, but she never resumed her position. And I think that's the cause of everything that's
How
downfalling the party.
how many blank checks did you sign in November?
In the
Um,
constantly of, I think it was like 30 blank checks. I did, the thing is with these blank checks, I am going to elaborate on it more.
mhm.
That I didn't sign these checks without proper consultation. All right. But when I say blank checks, I mean that these checks was brought to me without any proper documents, without any supporting documents. And when I say that, I'm going to save my integrity in the party. When I say that these checks was brought to me by the secretary to the general secretary without any supporting documents, or with the general secretary without any supporting documents. So I won't say that these checks are blank and I signed these checks and these checks are not, you know, meeting the operational standards. But I'm saying that I was told by the party that I'll be receiving these invoices and
Later
I
on.
didn't
Okay,
receive them.
okay, I get that. I
All
get
right?
that. So you were
All right?
complicit in signing these checks with understanding that you will receive the
With the
invoices
understanding.
later. I get that.
Correct.
And you have never received
Correct.
the invoices.
Never.
Mr.
In my
Mur-
eyes seeing here today, I have never received, and that's why I requested for the audit to be done. And the leader pass it through this ears to the next. And I'm saying this as it
what
is
happened?
without
What happened?
successful contradiction.
What happened when you spoke to the leader about the audit being done? What
Listen, the Constitution of the People's National Congress reform is very clear. The first biennial, the first general council, sorry, the first general council shall determine its auditor for the party. All right? It's stated in the Constitution. And if the first general council didn't prescribe or didn't advocate for an auditor to change, then the same auditor that is there is going to continue her or his job. But you never requested it, Mr. Norman Brown. You never requested it for the first general counsel to either change its auditor or to keep its old auditor. You never requested it. And it's on record me saying it. You never, ever friggin' requested it. And I'm going to say this with Farton. The party has been hurting for ages, and I think you and your leadership is hurting it more. And I'm not going to stand here
You mean
as
Mr.
treasurer of
Norton?
the
You
party
mean Mr.
and say,
Norton?
yes, ma'am.
Mr. Norton and his leadership. Mr. Norton's leadership. That's what you mean.
I'm going to go to his leadership very soon.
No, no.
Um,
You said you and your leadership as if you were speaking about me. So I'm just saying, for the sake of
Correct.
the viewers, you're
Yes.
speaking about Mr. Norton's leadership. Uh,
Yes.
let us talk about your recommendation from the inception in terms
I recommend.
of setting up a financial base for the
Mhm.
party,
Well,
to bring funds to the party. You recommended that to the leader and to the party. This is how we can get funds to sustain the party and to do our work. Tell our viewers a bit about how it all started. when you made that proposal, what were the responses, why didn't it come to fruition, and so on. Be very elaborate on that matter.
Well, the leader proposed to the Central Executive Committee of the party that we, as 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 leadership position in the party, that we should set out committees within the party. There are social services committee, there are finance committee, there are different various variants of committees. So as treasurer, I'm speaking about myself. I, s- I went out on a work plan. I went out on a terms of reference. And I went out on naming persons to be on my committee as as the finance committee of the party, right? Credible people, people with integrity, people who verbally suggested their approval to be in the committee and supporting the committee.
Mm.
So, for example, I propose in my work plan that these various fundraisers need to be taken place for activities and for finances to be garnered into the party, and that was left on their ears. All right. Second, I propose for the party to be self-sufficient in a way that we should not always turn on our supporters to have finances be brought into the party or anything to be done into the party. We should always turn our supporters. We should be self-sufficient in any ways that we should have an establishment or even a business establishment at Congress Place to ensure that we are self-sufficient. That also was left on deaf ears. A state of the art um, complex center was proposed by me, and it was also left on deaf ears. What my intention was in the party is, as treasurer of the party, if my tenure of office was like for 3 years or for 2 years or for 1 year, I wanted to make a difference. I wanted to ensure that the party is self-sufficient in a way that it could meet its electoral demands in an efficient way. And those, as a leader of the party, he campaigned on that. Mr. Norton campaigned on the platform of reforming the party and making it self-sufficient and so on. And I think he failed on the campaign promise by not listening to his treasurer in having these programs and policies being implemented.
How long have you been with the PNCR, Mr. Mursaline?
I have been in the PNCR for over a decade, Mr. Brown.
You've been in the PNCR for over a decade. I want you and the viewers to understand that whatever we do here is in the best interest of the party. Is trying to see that the party runs smoothly, and if there are irregularities, if there are things that are not up to scratch in the party, that our supporters must know, and they must play a part in urging the leadership to put their act together. This program is not about bringing down the party. It's about strengthening the party. And I really want our viewers to understand that. You looked at the leadership of Mr. Norton during the time that you would have been there as treasurer. How would you sum up his leadership? What would you say about his leadership? Do you think that Mr. Norton is good for the party based on how he responds to issues affecting the party? You talked about recommendations being made to bring finances to the party. You said the leader was quite nonchalant in dealing with that. In fact, he did nothing to facilitate that. You talked about the blank checks and so on, and you gave the impression that the leader couldn't be bothered to deal with the issue the way he ought to deal with it as leader of the party. What are your views in relation to Mr. Norton's leadership?
I must say that I was afforded to be treasurer of the party through Mr. Norton's leadership. And I want to thank him for the opportunity. But when it comes to having a working relationship into developing, quote unquote, the party,
Mm.
it's not there. He didn't practice what he preaches in his campaign. All right? And when it comes to practice what you preaches in your campaign, you could sum up many instances. It's not from myself alone, but many members sum up many instances that he failed when it comes to delivering to the opposition and to the people. So, Mr. Norton, when Mr. Norton leadership becomes more involved in becoming the opposition leader, into becoming the leader of the party, and so on, I think to myself, and many would have think this to themselves as well, but I think I'm speaking on behalf of myself. I think power, the word power, POWER, power,
Mm.
overcome his emotion, his modus of operandi, his kind of thinking, illogical thinking, when it comes to the leadership of the party. That's why Mr. Desmond White, if you go back into history, Desmond White made the decision to fire him as general secretary because the power within his character overcome his self, his selfness into the most focused prize, into the most focused thing, into the PNCR. His power overcome everything else. And I think that was the instances of him being fired as general secretary. But I must not go back into time.
Mm.
What we must do now is to reform the party into going into government in the next 2 years from now. All right? We have 2 years to leeway. We have 2 years to gerrymandering. We have 2 years to reform ourselves. 2 years is not enough time, but we can do it in 2 years if we have proper people involved.
So are you saying that Mr. Norton has been there 1 year and you have
Yeah.
elaborated on what I would say, quote unquote, his failures, his inability to work with his central executives and his inability to listen and to respond and to act as leader of the party. He has 1 year before the next Congress. You are saying that the party now has to close ranks if we are to face the next elections
Correct.
to be a viable force. Do you believe that Mr. Norton could put his act together now and become what you expect of a leader in the party, or do you believe that Mr. Norton has to go to facilitate someone else who can quickly bring the party together and be prepared for the next elections, be prepared for the triumph in the next elections?
Mr. Norton, I would say it, Mr. Norton have to go. Blatant as it is, Mr. Norton has to go. When it comes to recognizing policies and listen, Mr. Norman Brown, we are living in a modern Guyana. And I think as opposition leaders, or as opposition leader, or as an opposition party, Not every instance the government is saying or everything the government is doing, you need to bust the throat of the government. I think you need to negotiate into terms of reference into the government in ensuring that your people is the utmost priority as well as their supporters as well. And Mr. Norton, the aloofness of him and not shaking President Irfan Ali, and it's not, it's not posturing very well for a modern Guyana we want to see. And the modern Guyana we want to see is a united force within the PNC and the PPP coming together in forming one united force into managing the affairs of this country. Then we will have instances of racism being blatantly erased from the map of society and everyone working together. Mr.
Do you
Norton,
believe that the PPP is prepared to do that, or you believe that Mr. Norton understands that the PPP will never do that, and therefore his actions in terms of not engaging them in a superficial way, what do you believe that the PPP
listen,
will?
if you don't, as an individual or as opposition leader, don't propose plans and programs that could make the PPP accept your programs and policies, then you cannot make any decision of them not of them not accepting your proposal. You didn't propose anything. How can you be self-judgmental of saying to the fact that you didn't or they are not people centered and they are not listen, you need to practice what you preach. And I think we as PNCR or as the PNC opposition needs to take into perspective that leaders need to come up and need to act up their game. You need to when I must say that need to prove themselves, or else one, you'll be removed by a two-thirds majority, or two, you'll be cautioned publicly. So that's what we must do as politicians within the PNCR. It's our first step. We will take as politicians in the PNCR that we are going to say wrong as it is and right as it is. And then the PPP will take that into perspective by calling out Barajaglio or calling out Irfan Ali, the membership that I'm speaking about, that you know you're wrong and you're right. Those are the fundamental issues we need to face
Okay.
in the modern Guyana.
Let me ask you this question before we talk about the other issues I want to raise with you. Um, Many, you said that you were being accused in the party as a, you were being called a charindas in the party. Many have said that you, Mr. Mursaline, after the PPP would have assumed government in 2020, that you would have gone out publicly on social media to laud the PPP and to criticize the PNC. Is that a fact? What do you want to say about that?
It's the fact that I did went on social media praising the PPP because, Mr. Brown, we as human beings work tirelessly for an organization, for a political party, and then we are being stabbed in the back. How can you feel about that? How betrayed can you feel about
When
that?
you say you were stabbed in the back by
I
by the
was
Granger
slated.
administration,
I was slated, and I'm going to say this publicly on public record, to be one of the youngest parliamentarians in Region 6.
mm,
And I worked tirelessly in the party. I financed the campaign. I did many things for the party without mentioning. But I worked tirelessly for the party, just like any other persons work tirelessly for the party. But I worked beyond call. And when I am being stabbed in the back, I must exercise my right of being hurt and being emotionally distraught. I think my comments that I made there praising the PPP was because I was hurt, all right?
That you didn't
And
get
I
the MP
was,
position.
as any human beings would have, I was to say that F off the coalition. They didn't do anything for me. I worked tirelessly for them. F them off. And I think I won't say, I won't
So you're being
shun from
very
the start.
honest. You're being very honest there. That you
I'm
were
being very honest.
perturbed.
Why,
You were
why should I
perturbed.
lie?
You were perturbed with the party because you worked hard.
Of,
They didn't
of
give you
course.
a MP position and so on, and therefore
It's not because
you
I didn't give me an MP position. Wasn't looking forward for it. But my name was slated by executive members of the party, by Mr. Norton himself. My name was slated to be a member of parliament of the People's National Congress reform through the coalition. And my name was shoved under the carpet, as you can say it in layman terms. And that made me, as a teenager then, it made me hurt, it made me saddened, and I think I lash out. I lash out where anybody could would have lashed out of the coalition then, if they've brought so much adversities. So I have been sorry.
so much adversities. I want to talk to you about the tape that that entered the public domain um, with yourself, Mr. Roysdale Ford, and Mr. Ganesh Maipal.
Yeah.
Um, Tell us a bit about what happened there. How did that come about? Why it was released in the public domain? And whether you were aware that that tape existed.
Yeah. Well, when I entered it with a conversation with Mr. Ford and my Paul, I didn't think to myself that I was being recorded because I look up to these individuals as respectable individuals within the party and want the best interests of the party. But I was being recorded. It's out there. I cannot dodge from it. I've been recorded. Whatever been said in that recording, it's the reality. That's what's happening in the party. And those individuals who leak the recording, if it's Mahipal or Ford, I'm not saying whoever leaked the recording. As politicians within the same umbrella, cannot trust either Ford or myself, or even myself, either Ford or Mahipal, can't trust each other. Then I think the political organization that you are part of needs reforming urgently and expeditiously.
Mm.
And when it comes to reforming, I think you need to be sifting out these individuals that are acting snakish, quote unquote, in the party,
Let me ask
like
you this
crabs
question.
in a barrel.
Let me ask you this question. I understand what you just said there, but let me ask you this
Yeah.
question. You said Mr. Norton must go. You think he should go if the party is to, progress. If
Mm.
Mr. Norton goes, who do you believe is the most suitable candidate to lead the party and to lead us into the next elections?
When you are campaigning for
I'm
leadership,
I'm
Mr. William
asking you a
Robinson.
direct question. You can answer the question, then you can elaborate on when you're campaigning for
Yeah.
leadership.
What I'm saying is that the leadership of the party you are talking about, you need to who you think
Who is
who
your
you
choice? Who is your choice? Who
choice
do
for
you think?
for the
Who do you
leadership of
think?
the
Who
party.
do you think would be best at this time? You said to me here that time has elapsed, so it's 2 years to the next elections. We have to put our act together quickly. We have to, get this thing running.
Yeah.
Who do you believe would be that leader that would successfully achieve that feat in getting the party together and making it prepared? Sorry, for the challenge against the PPP at the national elections. Who is that one leader that you
I
believe,
want,
that you
I want,
personally believe, that your personal opinion? Who do you believe? Is it Mr. Ford, Mr. Paul, Amanzo Walton? Who do you believe at this juncture? If Mr. Norton leaves tomorrow, who do you
I
believe
think
would be
myself.
best? So
I
you
think
want.
myself will be the best candidate for the leadership of the party. And when I say that, I didn't say that, oh, I did everything for the leadership position. I did these things for the leadership position. I think what I'm saying is that we need to choose not a leadership who is senior within the party. All right, we need to choose leadership in the party that can be held accountable, that with this integrity,
But if
that
you be,
has the,
but if you become leader and we
yeah.
lose those and we lose the elections, upcoming elections, will you jump up and praise the PPP because you lost those elections?
No, 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 no. What I'm saying is that, Mr. Norman Brown, is that if a leader that you elect didn't work on its promises, he didn't work on his promises, I think a two-thirds majority needs to be in place into voting him out as leader of the party. You understand? So that's
What
what I'm coming at.
What are your thoughts?
That's what we need to campaign about. All right?
Many are saying that if Mr. Norton is removed at the next Congress or before then, um, Mr. Royce Ford um, may be the ideal candidate.
What Mr. Royzell Ford did, really, if he released the audio, or presumably acting like he was surprised in the audio as a trained loyalist and a liar in the profession, I think the leadership, or the membership of the party, or even the delegateship of the party, should not choose him as leader of the party.
So you don't
I think
believe
it,
you don't believe he should be chosen as leader of the party because of the release of the audio.
correct.
But
I don't think
you
he should
don't
be
know if it's
chosen.
Mr. Ford released the audio or Mr. Paul released the audio. You don't know, but
But I don't know.
is it
Yeah.
the same for
But
Mr.
if
Paul?
the
If it,
way how he sound, the way how he sound in the audio, Mr. Ford's sound in the audio, proves to himself, or proves to the entire public, that the releasing was from him. All right? And if you go into the technological aspect of the audio, and the kind of the voice over whoever voices, it sums up to that point.
well, I'm not sure that I've listened to the recording, and I can't fathom where in
But
that
what Mr.
recording Mr.
Ford,
Ford.
if Mr. Ford released those audio or not, it's going to show the duplicity in his leadership if he campaigned as leader of the party into not to be trusted.
There's a
I
man
think he had an
there. There
opportunity.
is a Manzo Walton. There is
Yeah.
Ganesh Paul, and there is Mr. Ford, who many would say are three executive members in the party in line.
They are executive
Hold on,
members because of what? Because
hold
they're a
on.
member
They
of
are,
parliament?
yeah, but they are
Yeah.
central executive members of the
No,
PNCR.
they're
They
not
are.
executive member.
There's
They weren't there in the forefront of politics in the
No, I am
PNC.
talking about the
They're there
central
because of PNC.
executive on the central executive committee at this
Okay,
moment,
yeah.
right? Those are persons that you know many would say are capable of leading the party if Mr. Norton goes. But you have sat here tonight to say that you think that
They're
you
not
are the
capable.
ideal person.
Yeah. They're not capable because we need to lead by example, Mr. Norman Brown. We need to show the PPP that if Jack, like for example, Jagdeo is a one-man show in the PPP. And I think if the PNC elects a leader that is not summing up or it's not practicing what he preaches, he needs to go. All right? A two-thirds majority of membership or of groups need to sign a petition, holds a special Congress, and let him go. And elect a new person involved in the leadership position of the party and let him go in forefront of politics in Guyana and see how he reacts. And I think we need to lead by example. If the PPP is seeing that, they will lead by example by voting Jagdeo out or voting Fanali out or these high-ranking PPP officials who are not summing up to the party's to the party's promises and programs. I think we need
But
as
you,
PNC politicians need to
but
bite the bullet.
there's a contradiction here, because
Yeah,
you think you are capable of leading the party. Mr.
yeah.
Ford is not capable of leading the party. Um, Ganesh is not. And you think that you are, and you are saying that these people. You said that if Mr. Ford, released that tape, then he shouldn't lead the party because obviously there's no integrity, is what you're saying. But here is a situation where you, as the treasurer, the leader of the financial accounting in the party, was forced to sign blank checks, you understand, by someone who was not even the general secretary of the party. You were ordered to sign blank checks and did not receive any invoice. Do you believe that if you, as the accounting boss of the party, would have done something like that, that you were at heir to? Why do you believe that you should be the leader of the party and not any other?
Listen, Mr. Norman Brown. Whatever I did by not being staunch on having invoices of these blank checks that I signed be brought to my attention is that I did everything as a party man. I think to myself that I would have been I will be given these invoices when the general secretary resumes her operations in the party, but she never did. So what I'm saying is that you can't nail me to the cross of saying that, oh, as an accountant or as a treasurer
I'm
or as a
asking
council.
I'm asking you the questions. I'm not
The
nailing you
thing
to the
is,
cross. I'm
no, no, no.
asking the
The
questions.
way how you are saying it, Mr. Brown,
Mhm.
is that I did everything within the confines of the law within the party, as a politician within the party, and
Mhm.
as a member of Teams Norton's slate. I did everything within the confines of the law in ensuring that proper accountability and proper management of the finances is being made. But my request to the leader didn't prosper very good. It went through the other aces next. And that's what my plain modus of operandi is here, explaining to the public.
Former treasurer of the People's National Congress, Faaiz Mursaline here on Voice of the Diaspora. We are about to wrap up. We're getting to the hours line, and so we're about to wrap up. Mr. Mursaline, you have said a mouthful. Here is a situation where you have not, in my estimation, seriously represent the PNCR in responding to a question in terms of its leadership, where you yourself have said that Mr. Norton's leadership has been lacking and we have been thrown behind. And if we are to step up the pace, if we are to be ready to face the PPP at the next elections, there should be a new leader. You were asked a question about capable and competent persons in the party, many believe are capable and competent, lawyers, and so on. Ganesh Mahipal, an excellent politician, a narrator, an eloquent person, a person with a lot of integrity, that did not stood up after the party would have been out of office in 2020 to laud the People's Progressive Party out of any personal, you know, offense that he may have felt been done to him, that he was slighted by the party. So out of that, he would have, jump up to say that the PPP. And finally, I want to ask this question because it's quite surprising. Here is a situation where you are saying to the world, to the world, that you're concerned about the party and it being prepared to face the giant monster, the PPP, at the next elections, and you are saying here that the only person you believe to lead the party, um, you know, into the next election is yourself. Do you actually believe that?
It's not a giant monster, Mr. Norman Brown. The PPP is not no
I,
giant
I, I
monster.
don't want you to defend
And
the
we
P-
need,
I don't want you to
no, no,
continue to
no.
defend the PPP here. It seems to
I'm not
me
defending the
that you
PPP.
are placing.
We need to take into consideration
Are you
that
sure? Are you
they
sure?
are going to
Listen,
be.
let me ask you this question before. Are you sure that you're not a mole from the PPP? Because in
No,
this
no, 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 no.
interview,
Listen,
you have been consistent in not condemning
yeah.
or criticizing the PPP. In
That's
fact,
the
on
thing
this
we need as
program,
politicians. That's the thing we need as politicians in the modern Guyana. I think as a young politician, we always, society lash out into the government spectrum or into the opposition spectrum that the opposition is not no good or the government is not no good. We as modern politicians or as young politicians needs to address issues and programs that the government is not really fundamentally prepared of debating to the opposition. Mr. Norman Brown, the PPP as we see it now is a havoc in the Guyana political atmosphere. All
oh,
right?
you're saying that now.
But
You're saying
we
that the people.
cannot, as opposition, can be an havoc as well. We need to be self-centered in proposing policies and programs into ensuring that the government is whole accountable, the diaspora level, in the level of diplomacy, and the level of locally. We as politicians need to come off of these senior faces in political parties and holding leadership who has the modus of operandi, holding the PPP or the government of the day accountable, and not just accountable, but holding the government of the day at the arm's length of negotiating the best for your supporters. All right? Negotiating best policies and programs for your opposition supporters. And when we as opposition leader or as a leader of a political party can ensure that the government is on the same page as the opposition, I think we're going to have a Guyana that we all will love. All right? And I'm saying this as a modern thinking Guyanese political leader. I'm not no senior politician who's going to think the Barnumite or the militant kind of leadership. Oh, I don't shake your hand. I don't this. You're this. Well, sit and negotiate some sort of a conscience kind of thinking will come with those negotiations be met um, properly. And I think we need to do that as politicians emerging into a Guyana that we want to see as an oil producing Guyana that is developed.
So, do you believe that the government of Guyana will work with the opposition if they take that?
I think to myself, if you go with the proper talking, with the proper modus of operandi, with the proper consultation, not cussing out consultation, not consultation that everything the government is doing going to cuss out and lambaste. And when your time comes for negotiation, they're going to cuss you out and say, no, we don't want this and we don't want that. No, we got to go very cordial and very polite in saying that these are the terms of reference of our side. And if you cannot take these terms of reference, we're going to go public and we're going to go on the streets and we're going to ensure that these terms of reference are being implemented into the budget or into the policies or into the government agenda.
Do you think that Mr.
We got
Jagdi
to
is a,
start
do
from
you think
somewhere.
that Mr. Jagdi is a good leader?
Pardon me, I didn't hear you.
Do you think that Mr. Jagdi, in your opinion, is Mr. Jagdi a good leader?
If he's a good leader,
that would listen to the opposition and acquiesce to the demands or the proposals and
I
so on.
think if you go to Mr. Jagdeo with proper talking and with proper consultation, this is not no GAFC session that you were saying to the opposition leader, Mr. Norton, at some banquet that we are gaffing. This is not no gaffing session. I am here to speak about my supporters. I am here to speak about my opposition supporters. And if you cannot listen to my listening ear or have a listening ear to my suggestions, then thing won't be easy as it is. All right? We need to stick that point there. Not everything. Oh, Mr. I don't want to meet Mr. Jagger because he's a politician that is that consider racist and whatever the case may be. Without meeting an individual and having a conversation with them, you cannot determine their modus of operandi. You cannot determine that. So I think with having proper consultation, Mr. Jagger, I said, watch, we need to work as one on one. You have to work for your supporters, and I'm working for my supporters, the 200 and something supporters that elected me. And these are the programs and policies that I must see implemented.
In wrapping up,
You know?
we have run out of time. I know that this is your first interview publicly
Yeah.
speaking about this issue. I understand that you refused an invite by the Freddie Gildari show and a number of other.
Yes.
Why did you choose this program to come on it?
Because I chose this program, it's specifically focused on our delegates. It specifically focused on our supporters. It specifically focused on our opposition personnel. And me being here, advocating for a reform in the People's National Congress reform, not just only reforming policies or programs in the party, but reforming this seniority and this kind of all bent ways, I must say, that electing senior persons to these high office. These senior person electing to these high office will just sell you out. I would say that plain blank, because they would not campaign, Mr. Norman Brown, on saying that if I cannot sum up my performance in the first year or the second year, I want you, the delegates, to form yourself into 2/3 majority in electing me out of office. They won't say that, but they will continue to hurt their supporters, their opposition supporters, their loyal supporters, in being in the office, into just prostrating themselves, gerrymandering themselves, as I must say it. That must not be, Mr. Norman Brown. We as PNC supporters need to take the bull by the horn. If you, as Mr. Norman Brown, as the leader of the party, cannot prove your A game within the 2 years or within the year, listen, next 2 years we are in general election. And I think the PNC need reform ASAP.
And that's reform with you as the leader of the party. Is that what you say?
I'm not saying myself as leader, but I'm saying if I'm advocating, or if I'm advocating myself as leader of the party, I think we should take into perspective these instances that Mr. Morselin have said very clearly that if he is not being, if he's not showing himself as a leader within the first year or the second year, there's a two-thirds majority coming to kick his ass out. We need to have that thinking,
Let
all
me
right?
ask.
And there's no,
Let me ask you this final question before we wrap up. I'll give you the
yeah.
opportunity to speak to the viewers in closing, to give your closing comments. But let me ask you this question. You said that if you said that you were upset with the party when the party did not recognize your contribution, and that is
Yeah.
why you went out there and lauded the People's Progressive Party. Charandas Prasad said he was very upset with the coalition because of the situation with the sugar workers being put out of work. Um, what is your view on Charandas's decision to move a no confidence motion against his his government based on the excuse he gave to move that no confidence motion?
Charanda's decision, what he made there was due to duplicity of him being bankrupt. All right, and I will say this publicly without successful contradiction. All right, he wanted to have a bailout, and what he did to the government then by voting yes to the no confidence motion, I think we as a government needed to do a lot of homework. And we going back into government in the next election or the other election from now, if we do a lot of homework in ensuring that we go back into government, we select a leader that is for the people, that is not senior face and these kind of things.
Do
I
you
think we're going to go back into
do you
government
think
well
he
prepared.
was totally wrong to do that, or do you think that he was
He
justified
was
in doing
totally
it?
wrong to
He
do
was
that. I'm
totally
going to
wrong.
say this. He was totally wrong to do that, Mr. Charandas Prasad. What he did, he said he did it on behalf of his own conscience. But his own conscience couldn't speak for the thousands of Guyanese that was suffering and that was suffering under the PPP. You understand me? So what he did was his own selfless action. And I think everyone have their own thinking, and we cannot change their thinking into another kind of way that we want them to think. But what we should do is to ensure that these leaks and these kinds of behaviors in political parties are not exposed to public um what do you call it, public scrutiny.
In closing,
Sorry.
Mr. Marceline, you have the opportunity to say what you want to say to the viewers in closing, and also what you want to say to Mr. Norton. Go ahead.
I would say that this year of me being the treasurer will be an unprecedented year that I would never look back with unprecedented pleasure. What must I say will convince the viewers that we need leaders that could sum up to their actions. We need leaders of the PNCR. I'm speaking about as a member of the PNCR. We need a leader of the party that we could hold accountable, that we could hold for their words, their practice, what they preaches, and we could be the staggering force in the political party that the leadership must be afraid of. And I think we as delegates need to choose leadership not as a team, because when you choose a team, you're choosing everyone being a yes man under that leadership. All right? We need to choose a leader that is a leader. If he got 450 votes, he's the leader of the party. He has the highest amount of votes. The chairman, who is the highest amount of votes, is the chairman of the party, the vice chairman. We need to choose leader. We don't need to choose a leader that is going about advocating themselves to the delegates, saying that, oh, I am Mr. Roysdale Ford as a with team, or Mr. Norton and team, or Mr. Faaiz Mursaline and team. No, We need to choose, if you're choosing a leader, there's a leader. If you're choosing a chairman, there's a chairman. These people are independently chosen. So they have an independent mind in putting you up to task. And that's what we need to do in the PNCR. We need extensive changes in the PNCR. And that's the main focus. No
Fires.
yes man in the party, and no senior faces in the party that we trust, and that's going to shove our trust under the carpet. That's the main thing.
It is an interesting conversation tonight. I thank you for coming on the program. You will
You're
always be
welcome.
you will always be welcome back on this program.
Thank you.
It is for the viewers to decide what transpired here this evening. But of course, I think that all of us are interested in seeing the PNCR successful as a party and the PNCR being prepared to face the next elections. And
Yeah.
therefore, if there's anything that is happening within the party, um, under the current leadership that we believe is undermining the party, it is the right of all of us to ensure that that stops. It's the right of all of us to ensure that that is corrected. I want to say once again, thank you for being here on Voice of the Diaspora. And until next time, be good.